All right. It looks like we are live. So, hey, welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in here for Past Perfect, and thanks for joining us for part 2 of our SIE Success Series, brought to you by Past Perfect. I'm your host, Clayton Norman. I am the social media and marketing manager for Serify, which is the parent company for Past Perfect. In our first session, we talked about what the SIE exam is and why it matters if you're starting a career in financial services. Today, we're talking about the questions that every candidate eventually asks, and that is, how do you actually pass the SIE? We're going to talk about how to structure your study plan. We're going to talk about the strategies successful candidates use and the tools that help students master the material, pass with confidence. I'm joined today by JD Page. He's our senior program advisor at Pass Perfect, works very closely with our students preparing for their licensing, security licensing exams. And I'm going to let JD introduce himself in a second here. But first of all, a couple of things to remember during this live stream. First of all, we want to hear from you. We absolutely love your feedback. So bring your questions, bring your comments, bring your insights, anything that you feel like would contribute to the conversation. Put that in the comments, and we will try to respond to as many of those as we have time for. Second of all, we love to see where you're tuning in from. So let us know. Let's consider this your roll call. Drop in the comments where you're tuning in from. If you're a university student, let us know what your alma mater is and what you're studying and where it is that you're watching from. If you're not a student, but if you're somebody in the industry, let us know, what your position is or what firm you're with. We love to see all of that kind of stuff. And if there happen to be any Past Perfect alums out there, we also would love to hear that. So we're going to get into it. Drop those questions, drop those comments, let us know where you're watching from. And JD, you are the senior program advisor. Like I said, you work closely with students who are preparing for the securities exams. Tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to be with us at Past Perfect?
Yeah, I'd say my journey was unconventional, to say the least. In 2016, I'm living in Oregon. I was doing work for myself as a consultant, and I came to find that Oregon's tattoo industry had suddenly changed from a apprenticeship model to a licensure model overnight. And suddenly you had all these, I mean, as you can imagine, Oregon's a very tattooed place, and you have a lot of people, they want to join the industry. And so there was this need for test prep. And I knew someone who was involved in the industry, and they thought, well, this guy, he could probably figure some of this out. And so, sight unseen, they hired me, and I built a program, 420 plus page book, dozen chapters, exams, quizzes. I built that entire test prep system by myself. And the ironic part is, the school that I worked for was the only school that passed the exams. So they actually changed the law because we were the only people that were really succeeding. So with that experience, there was a local company, Solomon Exam Prep. They were looking for new people, and they said, we're in the financial industry. Do you think you could engage with this kind of material? And I explained to them what I did there. We did a little practice, and everything worked out great. I passed my SIE in a couple of weeks. And then Solomon Exam Prep got acquired by Serify, Past Perfect. And so here I am. I've been doing this work since 2021.
Wow. It's kind of a wild ride to go from working in the tattoo industry to financial services. But
I'll say both of them require a degree of trust, especially when you're an outsider. But I like to just have an open mind, and I try to put myself in the position of the test maker, which we'll talk about more later. I think that's a really good way as a student to calibrate how you want to answer these questions.
And if you could, I don't know, try to put a number on it or ballpark it. How many at this point? How many students do you think that you have helped potentially pass these exams?
You know, the nature of my work is I mostly deal with people that are less happy than more happy, just because I do so much corrections work. I'll just say when I hear from people that have succeeded, um, it's really really heartwarming, and it's one of the things that really inspires me to move forward. And the passing is great. A lot of people when they pass, they're off doing something else. We're they don't need to be our best buddies. We want them to pass the exam and go on with your life, have a great time. What I actually hear more of is the aha moment. Someone that this is not making sense to me. I don't get it, and I try to communicate with them. What's where's the weakness? Where is the stopping point? What's stopping you from getting this? And then we kind of get together, and when we can have that aha moment together, that's priceless. I love that. So that's another thing. Just really keeps me inspired moving forward, is helping people to learn what they need to do to keep moving forward.
All right.
Quick.
JD Page, folks. And if you are just tuning in a little bit and missed the first part of when we kicked this thing off, we are here for part 2 of our SIE success series. And today we are talking about the tips, tricks, strategies that you need as a candidate to pass the SIE exam. All right. And if you're also just tuning in, please drop in the comments. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We love to see that. We will share those on the screen and give you a shout out. Let us know where you're watching from. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So let's start, JD, with the big question that most candidates have, which is, how should someone structure their study process? So when someone, first decides to take the SIE, what's the first thing they should do to start building the study plan or the structure that they're going to need to be successful, to successfully complete the exam?
Right. That really depends on the person. There's 2 primary paths. One is the firm path. In that case, you better know what your firm wants. And then you're going to work backwards. They want you to pass on this date. So make the time, make the schedule, etc. This is your study plan now. If you're independent, you're either not firm sponsored or you have a looser arrangement, then you can kind of choose your own adventure, as it were. And while the SIE is absolutely the initial gateway to broader financial exams, there's different people can come to this. People that have more industry experience, people have less. And people that have less experience are going to need to take more time, whereas people that have more experience might be able to have a shorter study window.
All right. Candy from Pennsylvania, it's great to have you. Thank you. All right, JD, that makes a ton of sense. When people start to look at that end date and start to work back, if that's, if they're working with a firm, how long should they plan? Like, what's the typical time frame that it takes a student to get prepared?
Yeah, we typically say between 4 to 8 weeks. And so, we would say the 4-week path is someone with more experience. They're familiar with the material more. Someone needing 8 weeks, less sure of the material. Perhaps they are brand new to the industry, brand new to these kind of terms. Yeah, I'd say that's what we typically go by. Again, some people are able to have a more free path, whereas other people are really quite restricted by their employer. So
and
we want to respect everyone's schedule based on the individual.
And in those 4 or 8 weeks, roughly, what amount of time per day is that accounting for?
And that's the other part of this is with our customizable study schedules, you can calibrate what you need to do. So you take some days off. It's there. You have like a holiday or event or something. Alternatively, you're under the gun, you don't really know this material super well, and they're giving you a tight deadline. You need to incorporate that into your study plan. Maybe you're working, maybe you're studying most of the day, maybe you're studying through weekends. Our plans are robust enough to help you to calibrate that. Just each person is coming at this differently. And I'll also add in, I I come from a place where we have a tremendous amount of diversity, and we also understand that there are many people that are taking the SIE and all kinds of advanced exams for whom English is not their first language.
Mhm.
And it may take a little extra time because English itself can be a challenge, but the kind of language that these exams speaks is a different kind of financial English, and that can take a little getting used to the jargon, etc. It can be challenging. It's challenging to native speakers, and so it can be extra challenging to people that are non-native speakers as well.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that aspect of it. Guys, if you're tuning in, again, if you haven't let us know where you're watching from, please let us know. Also, if you have taken the SIE and you're maybe considering, moving ahead with some other courses from Past Perfect, let us know what kind of timeline you looked at. So JD, what are the biggest mistakes that you see with students when they're starting to lay out what their study plan or what their study schedule is going to be?
Not taking enough practice exams. That's really essential. We tend to use videos as a supplement, something that's nice to have as an addition. Some people choose to only use the videos. I wouldn't strictly recommend that because that format is a little bit more concise. You might have a little less context. But I'm also maybe a little old fashioned. I just want to read books. Another really going back to the practice questions, everyone wants to focus on what they're doing right. But I would say for the purpose of your exam, focus on what you're doing wrong. Really, really concentrate on where are my weaknesses? What am I not getting? And focus on that. If you're doing something well, you can, I don't want to say ignore it, but you don't need to spend as much time with that. What you want to do is try and bring up your scores in your weakest areas. That should help you to pass. And just to be clear, we are not trying to get people to 100%. You don't have to make 100%. We want to get you to pass that exam. And so we're going to try to give you the most concise, clear, easy to remember pathway to make that happen, which is for the SIE, you want to get over 70%. So that's what we're really aiming for. Obviously, you want to get a perfect score. Hey, good for you. But we're very focused on you just getting that license. You're not going to even see your higher score. You're going to see a lower score if you fail. That's the score you get to see. We just want everyone to see that pass, and whatever it's going to take to get there is what we're going to do. Last thing I'd say is the SIE is a very broad exam. It covers a great swath of material. It's not very deep, but it's quite broad. And if you are a newbie to the industry, it takes time for these ideas to filter into your consciousness. This is not an exam that is good to cram for. Some ideas just really take a while, especially if you're approaching them from a new perspective, and trying to do it in a weekend or a week or something like that, 2 weeks, really an unwise idea. You're very likely going to fail in that case.
All right. And saw that Candy Denise from Dallas had just popped into the chat there, said she took the SIE, missed it by 2 points. Candy Denise, you're going to get it next time. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to have you here. If you haven't tuned in, and if you are just turning in and you're letting us, and you haven't let us know where you're watching from, please do that. JD, how does having that structure improve a student's chances of passing?
Right. I would say the two primary factors there are accountability and consistency. it's kind of like having a workout plan with a buddy, having some other external form of accountability. Hey, it's Monday, this is what we're supposed to do. It's Tuesday, this is what we're supposed to do. And then with that comes the consistency. Okay, I have this plan, I'm following this plan, and it's happening day by day. That's what helps you to avoid the cram trap, anxiety traps. I think that it it helps to strengthen our weaknesses where we might have overconfidence or just laziness or frustration. You just got to do it. You got to put in the time day after day. And if you do that, and you follow our practice tests, and you try to really engage with what you got wrong, and are constantly looking to improve, pretty sure you're going to make it.
All right. And just briefly, I know you mentioned a little bit already the customizable study calendar. Can you talk just a little bit about how that can help students stay on track?
Yeah. Um, it's it's able to be customized based upon your schedule, um, in in every possible way, in the sense that you can choose hours, days, weekends, and as I said, it's primarily going to be based upon whether your employer is demanding a certain timeline, or if you are able to choose your own timeline. So it's a really powerful, flexible tool for preparing your schedule for the next 4 8 weeks, or more. I mean, if you have the time and you only want to spend 2 hours a day, that's what you got. Then there you go. We definitely have some candidates where they're on a very tight timeline. They're going SIE in a very brief time, and then they're going on to the 7 or other exams. So everyone's coming at it a little differently, and that's why we need to have a robust, customizable calendar system that can meet diverse learners' needs as they need them.
All right. So Saw Karma had jumped in there, and Gurgen or Gurgen, I hope I'm getting that right, from California State University. Love seeing that. Thanks. Keep those coming, guys. So JD, you mentioned that the SIE is sort of maybe an inch deep and a mile wide, covers a lot of foundational concepts. What are some of the biggest areas that students usually need to focus in on?
Right. I'm going to jump back from that question and say, let's approach it first from the overhead 30,000-foot angle. And that is, you are taking a licensure exam that is being created by a regulator. And so you need to understand that at its core, this is testing regulatory compliance. Now, there's a variety of other topics that come into play here. Primary one being, what are we talking about? We're talking about securities, so stocks, bonds, etc. So that's the biggest part of the SIE, is what are these products, and then what are their risks? What are their different qualities? What makes them suitable for one kind of person versus another? Again, this is broad but not deep in the SIE. And then we go on to client accounts, the regulators themselves, trading markets, some of these other aspects. But most importantly, you have to always remember, the exam will never ask you a question in which the right answer is to do something non-compliant, unethical, or against the interests of retail investors, which is our your normal everyday investor. So just understanding those parameters helps you to understand what they're going to ask and what kind of answers they're looking for.
Right.
So that's that. Go ahead.
Oh, I think that's really helpful, right? The lens that this is created by a regulatory agency, by regulators, and that's the lens through which you should view most of the material.
Right. So we just, for instance, anti-money laundering often has a large component because, excuse me, they want to ensure you know what you're doing. They want to ensure that you are able to work compliantly. So making sure that you know baseline compliance rules and regulations, very, very important for this exam.
All right. Okay, so with that in mind, as somebody sitting down to get started on this, how should they think about balancing reading, practice questions, and the review components of the course?
Right. That's kind of goes into each person's the way that they approach things. I would personally read primarily. I would make custom flashcards. I would take a lot. Okay, we have chapter and section quizzes, and then we have exams. I would really engage with those quizzes and smaller tests and see where my weaknesses were. And if I knew that there are, and your study guide will actually want you to move forward. It's not a matter of, I have to keep doing this until I do a perfect score. It's let's keep moving forward. And then as you are moving forward, go back to those weaker areas and try to bring them up. And if you're really doing great in one area, perfect. You can just move on. But that's how I would really focus my time if I was starting from scratch here.
All right. And in that case, so at what point should students start incorporating the practice questions into that mix?
Right. Well, because we have it tiered, you're going to start getting some little quizzes very early on. And I would just start at the section and chapter level. It's up to you and your schedule. Okay, and I'll go back. The chapter and section quizzes are randomized. So, and we have a pretty substantial question bank. So you can often take these same quizzes multiple times and not get the same answers or not the same questions twice. So if you know you're having a problem right away, that's probably a good idea. If you feel confident and you're getting good scores, you don't need to keep going that deep in that area. But if you know that you are weak, I would keep going back to that in preparation for once you've gone through all those steps, then we start giving you the full exams. And those full exams are going to simulate the full exam experience. Timed, right number of questions, flagging systems, etc. It's our closest simulation to what you're actually going to sit for with FINRA.
And it's really quite easy to know because you get that instant feedback from the practice questions, right? You got it right. You need to focus more on this.
I wouldn't call it instant because it's after you take the test. We don't tend to be like number one. Here's the answer, number one. But it's very quick. And again, just we're not trying to make you feel bad for getting it wrong. That's the only way we improve is by where are my weaknesses? Where am I having an issue? How do I move forward?
All right. And then how do you know like when you're ready for the actual exam? When can you say it's go time?
Yeah, we'd like to see you consistently taking final exams and scoring in the low 80s. That's probably the low baseline. As I said, you only need to have a 70 to pass the SIE. So that should give you some good wiggle room. Obviously, you get higher scores, fantastic. But that's a pretty good indication that you're going to be ready. And you mentioned a listener that didn't pass by just a couple points. That's always disappointing to hear, but that represents maybe one or two questions. So that's kind of within the margin of error. I'd say look at what those weaknesses are, and you're probably able to pass another try. If you're that close, You're basically right there. We can go over some other tips later, but at that level, I think you're going to be making it if you
All right.
keep up with it.
You got it. Okay, so just real quick, Past Perfect's been doing this for a long time. I believe more than 40 years. We've got millions that we have helped license. But just briefly, what are a couple of the tools that you really like in the Past Perfect platform?
I like that we are meeting people's diverse needs. So that at this point, we have the core textbook. We have converted them into videos for people that want to hear that. I think we also have audio recordings so you don't even have to read slides. We have flashcards that are pre-made to help you to study if you want to have something that's quick. We have I've actually been myself building help sheets. We have a help sheet for the SIE, like 6-page visual guide with nice, concise test taking tips. And I'd say that's a phenomenal. I've been saying don't cram for the whole time, but in the end, having a concise help sheet with just a couple pages of key testable points, that's the best time to pull that thing out. So, we try to meet. Are you a visual person? You want to read? You want to listen? So we're here to help people learn and absorb in whatever way is optimal for their experience.
All right. Okay, let's talk about a few practical tips that anybody who's prepping right now could apply immediately. So if somebody is studying for the SIE right now, what's one habit that dramatically improves their chances of success?
My advice is actually a little outside of what we do, but I think it's very sound. And that is, I recommend people to practice what I call full immersion. So, as I said, the financial industry has a different kind of language, different jargon, different terms. And if you're coming to the industry from outside, this can be challenging. So I recommend people look for podcasts, documentaries, movies, whatever kind of, we'll say, documentary entertainment that they like. Put that on the background. Listen to financial news. Listen to, videos about stock market crashes. It just familiarize yourself with the vocabulary. The more you hear the terms used, the more confident you are in your ability to understand what the concepts are. When you don't have that much experience with the terminology, that in and of itself can create anxiety. And so I want people to feel comfortable and confident with the phrasing. And I think the more that you put yourself in that world, in the same way as I said, put yourself in the position of the regulator, put yourself in the position of the industry insider. When you can start to think from that perspective, you will answer from that perspective. And those are going to be better, stronger answers. I'm also a huge fan of custom flashcards. So I recommend when you get those questions wrong, that's what to focus on. I've made a bunch of flashcards in my life. And when I was studying for the SIE, options were very difficult for me. Short, long, and the calls and the puts, and it was very confusing for me initially. And so I made a series of cards, and then everywhere I went, if I'm waiting in line, I'm looking at my cards. If I'm sitting waiting for a bus, I'm looking at my cards. I found that I wanted to be there all day long, practicing all the time. And the more that I was in that state, the easier it was to pass in the end. Excuse me. Last thing I'd say is for people that are even more kind of far along and they're getting really close, try to teach it. Now, I'm not saying, start a class and have a seminar. Talk to your parents, your partner, even a dog, cat. Just try. There's something special that happens when we explain a concept to someone else. It shows a kind of fluency of, A, B, C, D. Here's how it all fits together. Here's how these components are. That just helps us to not just gain confidence, but understand the context with which we can answer these questions. And while the SIE is largely a definition based exam, knowing how everything fits together is crucial. And so if we can help to explain that to someone else, we will be in a much better position of taking whatever the exam has to give us.
I love that. Explain it to me like I'm 5, right?
Hey,
Okay. Hey, saw that we had Jose join from California State University of Northridge. That's 2 from California University of Northridge. Great to have you. We're going to get into viewer questions here in just a minute. We've got a couple more things to get through with JD. So if you've got questions that you want to ask JD, our expert, our senior program advisor at Pass Perfect, about passing the SIE, drop those in the comments and we will try to get to a few of those here live on air. If we don't get to them before the time that we have to sign off, keep an eye on the comments. We will absolutely answer all of those questions in the comments. Also, our comments section is going to be filled with a bunch of great resources for you that you can check out from Past Perfect, including some great testimonials from students and some other really great resources that you can check out. So, JD, while somebody is preparing, how important are the practice exams? You mentioned those before. You mentioned that you can actually do a lot of them. So what's the value there? How important, and what's kind of the strategy that somebody should be thinking about with the practice exams?
100% essential. And the way I would think about it is like a chef making a stew. You got to test what you're doing. Otherwise, you're truly flying blind. So that is really essential, that you take the time to, and I understand they're challenging, and it can be disappointing when you don't get the score that you want to get, but that is the way to pass. You have to know where your weaknesses are so you can move forward. And Clayton, I apologize. As we're going through these questions, what I forgot to mention was we're talking about different study techniques we have to offer. The helpline. That is another crucial aspect that we offer. And not only do we offer it in general, I'm one of the main people to answer questions. So the helpline is our support line. Now, I'd say the best way to utilize that, if you have, as I keep saying, what are your weaknesses? What are the questions that you are really struggling with? Get 1, 2 questions and send those to us and say, help me to break this down. What's really going on here? And then we can have a dialogue and we can go through what you're struggling with, try to figure out how we can help you to understand it better. And that's really where I think we can all excel together. And the more the learners can engage with us, the more we can engage with them. It just helps everybody to prepare clearer, better educational materials for everyone. And I've seen a lot of people go from disappointed, defeated, sad, honestly, into being very hopeful, happy, and then the best of all is when I passed. I love seeing those emails.
Can't beat that. So what should students think about if they're really having difficulty with one particular area, or questions in one particular topic? What's the approach there to try to work through that?
Yeah, that's going back to my helpline sort of thought. I would think of that in some kind of medical context where, broadly speaking, okay, you have a problem. This is a weak spot, but where precisely are we having this issue? Is it, remembering one versus the other? Is it the context? Is it some kind of where is the disconnect? And so we're going to try to help you as much as possible to find that one particular what the actual issue is. Now, when you don't know this material very well, that can be hard to conceptualize. You may not know what you don't know, and so you don't know why you're getting something wrong. But come to us and we'll help you. We will help to break down what you're looking at and help to, we've all gone through this ourselves. So we want to help you with our experience so that we can have you pass and succeed as we want you to. That's our primary goal. Pass, succeed, move on with your life, financial success. That's what we want to hear.
I love it. And that's also, I just add, across all of the companies that, that are Serify companies, that individual support, that help that you can get no matter what your questions are. We really pride ourselves on being there to support you all the way through, along the way to success on whatever certification or exam it is that you're working on. Cannot stress that enough about not only Pass Perfect, but the other companies in the Serify family. So guys, if you have questions for JD, we're getting close to time that we're going to sign off here. If you have questions for JD, please drop them in the comments and we will try to respond to some on air. We'll answer any that we don't get to in the comments as well. But if you have questions for the man while he's right here, now's your chance. Please drop those in the comments. JD, what's something that separates, or what separates a student who passes the SIE from the first time from those who might struggle?
I think that boils down to honesty and accountability. And these are challenging because, it's humbling. When you start something that you're not really well acquainted with, you're not going to do a perfect job to begin with. But you need to be honest with yourself. Where am I today? Where do I want to be? What is stopping me from being where I want to be today? And using something like a study guide, your learning lead, us, that can help you to have the accountability factor so that you're moving forward each day. We really want to see you aware of where those problem areas are and shoring them up day by day by day. And if you're doing that, you will absolutely pass the SIE. The SIE is definitely accessible to a very wide range of people, but you have to be willing to engage with the breadth of the material and be willing to, there's such a wide range of topics, and you have to know how to engage with all of them. But if you're willing to do the practice as we, as we recommend, then I think you're going to make it for sure.
All right. All right, guys, we have just a few minutes left before we're going to sign off here. JD, before we go, and in the meantime, looks like we got a question there that just popped up. So the options section is most challenging for me as well. About how much time of the test is focused on options. Also, what is the helpline phone number? Excellent questions.
Helpline phone number. Let's put that in the chat or something. I answer. I'm not. I don't remember the number offline. I will tell you. Here's the good news on options, and here's even better news on math. Okay. FINRA understands that everyone has a smartphone in their pocket at this point, so math in general is not something to get worked up about with this exam. However, conceptually, you have to know what is going on with these different topics. Okay, going back to options, understanding the different components of an option contract and how buying, selling, trading, very light details there. That's key. But you're not going to have some super complex equation, super complex math. I mean, I'm talking like 2 plus 2 is about the level of math. But if you don't understand the components, you're going to get it wrong. So you have to be really firm in your conceptual knowledge, and then everything else will work out. We are often going to test a little harder than what you're going to see on the exam because we're trying to prepare you for, kind of worst case scenario. Like us, FINRA uses a test bank, and so each person's test is unique, more or less. And so some are going to be a little harder, some going to be a little easier. And so we want to just give you the variety. But you're going to have a maximum of around 5 or 6 option questions, and they're largely going to be definitions. And then to a lesser extent, a little bit of math, but that math will be quite simple. As I said, you just need to know the concept. And every person, just on that note, you will receive a writing instrument, some kind of thing to write on, might be some kind of wax paper or transparency, and they'll get you'll get a simple calculator. With those components together, you're not going to have anything that's going to be outside of the realm of math. I'd say for the most part, you should be able to do most of the math in your head. So, and I say this as someone who I was not a math scholar in high school or in college, so I was concerned myself, oh, geez, how much math is going to be on this thing? But that's not their focus. They just want to make sure you know what you're talking about, and if they ask you a question, you know how to break it down. That's what's really important here.
Awesome. Excellent question. And JD, part of that is also, do we know like percentages or weightings of the different topics on the exam? So like
Absolutely.
Part of that is how much of the test is focused on options?
Yeah, I mean, okay. So I can tell you that in general, we know options are around 5 individual questions. That's really because options like we focus on a lot, and options are, that's not unique. A lot of people are challenged by options. It's a challenging concept, and most people who are at the SIE level have never heard of these before. I certainly didn't. So that is something we are very well aware of. On the other hand, we really have more, for instance, I talked about the products and their risks. That's, I don't remember the exact total, but it's like 45% of the exam. So from that, what is going to be stocks, what's going to be bonds, what's going to be this or that, that's a little wigglier. But in general, we're going to see 5 questions on options, which again, we're so focused on that in particular that we can give you a more granular answer. If you're going to say how many questions about, new account openings, that's not something we're as granular with. And that's where, you have to know the breadth, because we can't tell you what your customized exam is going to look like. You might have more stocks, might have more bonds, might have more ETFs. It's just going to be the luck of the draw. And that's why we want to prepare you for the breadth you're able to see.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you, JD. And thank you for the great question. We got just a couple more minutes left. So if anybody else out there has some questions that you want to drop to JD right now is your opportunity. You've got your expert live right here, ready to answer your questions. So put them in the comments if you've got them. In the meantime, while we wait for a sec, JD, like, what's your final piece of advice that you would give to somebody who is going to get ready and to try to take the SIE in the next few months, those 4 to 8 weeks, or even a little bit beyond that? What's your best go-to advice?
Excuse me. Here is my not so secret technique that I tell everyone that I encounter. Step 1, go through the entire exam and answer all of the easy questions first. Everything that you are confident in, immediately answer, go on. As you are doing that, the step 2 is flag every difficult question. On our practice exams and on your actual exam, there are little flag icons. That is a little note that says, I can come back to this. I'm going to look at this again. So, simple questions first, flag everything that's complex. So go through the entire exam, answering all the easy ones. Then answer all the hard ones. Then, with the time that you have left, go back to number 1 and look for no, not, never, except, and written numbers. SIX 6. They love to do things like written option contracts, 6 SIX contracts. And as you're in this anxious exam space, you might not read that. You might not have read that it's an accept question. And I know this because when I've taken these exams myself, I'm nervous too. I want to pass. And so it's very easy to miss a word here and there. And so going all the way through just to make sure you didn't miss a word, I think is a really important technique. And maybe more than anything else, I have gotten very good feedback on that. So I highly, highly recommend taking the time to do that.
All right. I think that is fabulous advice. And I think that is about where we are going to wrap things up. Folks, if you're tuning in late or if you're watching this after we have actually been live, we have been talking about how you pass the SIE exam with JD Page, Pass Perfect Senior Program Advisor and an expert in all things SIE, and it has been a fabulous conversation, JD. We so appreciate your time. The things that we've talked about today, we've talked about the value of and how you build your structured study plan and why that's so important. We've talked about practice questions and how important your practice exams are in your study prep and in getting you ready to actually sit down and know when you're ready to actually sit down and take the exam. And we've also talked about the fact that you have to show up. You have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be accountable to your study and to your practice to get the best results out of the effort that you put in before you go into the study exam. Oh, we got one more question that came in live. Love it, from Rosie. This one says, from Rosie, are we able to order the flashcards that are in Pass Perfect?
My understanding is that they're an extra purchase, and I believe that these are digital flashcards. I don't believe that we offer physical flashcards, just to be clear. I'm not certain if they are or are not printable, but there definitely is a flashcard set for the SIE. I do believe it's extra, although perhaps some firms, they may have already bundled that into their system. I'm on the content side, customer service, sales. That's not really my specialty, so I can't answer that as much as I would like, or with as much confidence as I would like.
No problem. Rosie, we will absolutely let you know for sure in the comments, and we will definitely also provide a link to those if you're able to purchase them sort of individually. And then, we threw it out there and threatened that we were going to sign off, and we got another question coming in. So Josue asked, what concepts are tested in tricky or misleading ways? I think we've probably got time to get into that one. What do you think, JD?
Here's what I would say. Rather than think about a particular topic, what FINRA loves to do. Okay, let's think about it from a regulatory perspective. You're going to come into work. Maybe you're tired. You got some stressful things going on at home. The commute was difficult. Your office is not as comfortable as you would like it to be. You've got someone coming in. They don't know that much about their investments. They can't articulate that very well. They have a stressful day. This is all a way of saying there's a lot of chaotic things going on in our lives at all times. And so how do you cut through that? So one of the things that FINRA loves to do is give you way too much information. Here's this person. They had these things. Here's what they bought. They did it on this date. They did these other things. They give you a whole paragraph. And then the question, what do you need from that paragraph? So what I recommend doing, look at the answers. Look at the answers. Look at the last sentence. That's a key study tip, because When you're nervous, you look at the first sentence. Oh, this many contracts, this date, this must be what it is. But that may not be it. They love to give you too much information and make you choose. They also like to, excuse me, give you what appears to be too little information. Um, for instance, we have to know that the default price of a bond is $1,000. The default price of preferred stock, $100. They will make sure that you know that by asking questions in which it is inferred and not declared. And so you have to know when to read between the lines. You also have to know when to really carefully parse out unnecessary information. That is super crucial. And those are some of the biggest tricks that they love to pull. And so that's where I would say you put in your flag. And then after you get all the easy stuff done, you just really buckle down and say, what is going on here? What do I need? What do I not need? And as I say, I like to think about that context. How are they going to know? Are you going to have the capacity to handle this kind of chaos? And so asking these questions, I think, is their way of seeing, can you cut through the noise and find out what's essential and get to the right answer?
All right. So less about the specific topic or concept and more about the ways that they're going to try to trick you by giving you too much or too little information and assuming that you're going to be stressed out and might go too fast and miss those questions because of that relevant information, right?
It's very human. You know, one of those areas that they love to ask. So if I were to pick a particular topic, insider trading, you know, there's a secret someone tells this person, and then they tell us, and then you can have a dozen different individuals, who's violating, who's not violating, etc. And you have to figure that out from all this other information, and you have to think very clearly. All right, here, violation, not violation, etc. So that's just something they love to do, and that is definitely on the SIE level and higher level exams as well.
Super good to know. Great question. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, and thank you for everybody who had questions and let us know where they were watching from. I think this has been a great session, JD. Like I said, we super appreciate your time, your expertise, and sharing your knowledge. We've talked about, you know, the importance of your study, you know, structured study plans, the practice questions and tools that you can use to ensure that you're ready for exam day. And we've talked about how you have to be honest and accountable to yourself in terms of your studying and if you're going to be successful on this exam. So thanks for everybody who tuned in. If you want to learn more about Past Perfect and our SIE exam prep programs, you can visit pastperfect.com. We'll also link our website in the comments, as well as some of our SIE study packages. We even have some bundle packages that will include the SIE and one of your subsequent licensing exams to save you a little bit of money by doubling down on those two. So for example, I think we have a SIE and Series 6 and a SIE and Series 7 bundle packages. So take a look at those, if that's going to be relevant to you, you know, absolutely, you would be able to tap JD for his expertise in an ongoing way if you go with one of those. Also, make sure that if you registered for this and you're tuning in, keep an eye on your email, because we're going to have some follow-up content to you after this in your email inbox. So thank you so much. Also, make sure to mark your calendars for April 15th. That's we're going to be doing our third and final installation of our SIE Success series. We're going to be talking with our instructor, Anushka Chong, who is absolutely incredible. She's going to be talking about ways that you can fit preparing for the SIE into your real life. We're going to talk about managing stress, avoiding burnout, and building confidence as you go through your exam prep. Going to be a fabulous session. We'll also put that link to register in the comments. So please make sure that you register for that and join us. Again, that's going to be on April 15th, live right here on LinkedIn and YouTube. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I think this has been a really fabulous session. And good luck if you are in the process of preparing for the SIE. You've absolutely got this. Don't hesitate to reach out to Past Perfect via social media or to call JD on the support line. And we will be there to help you see your way through to success on the SIE exam. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much.